With Blin's recent victory on Ascent, both teams have had their chance to shine in the spotlight of an undefeated streak to some degree. Welcome back, everyone, to the VCLNA OQ2, powered by Zippo. We're here in the Winners Semifinals, final match here to determine the last candidate for those winner finals, who will face off against Core for our second to last VCL spot in our final match of the night. But Keg, it'll take a third after Blin put on a ridiculous showing on Ascent, particularly on that defense. Mikey and Okeanos having an absolute clinic.
It's been a battle of like the duelists and friends, right? I mean, map number 1, it was Paint and Anderson. Map number 2, Mikey and Okeanos, as you mentioned. So good for that duality. And that's been a big driving force. But the Open Qualifiers that we've seen has just been enabling your duelists to really shine so aggressively for those immediate trades, working so well for a lot of these teams. But as we go to map number 3, it's going to be split. It's essentially the best of both of these worlds. You have a little bit more long-distance angles, a little bit more rotatability that Ascent has to offer here, and they'll get to see both teams take advantage of. But we also have those up-close and personal sights, that intimacy that you love to see on a map like Sunset, where you can get really in for those big 1v1s and make a lot of impact. So will Okeanos and Co. and will Paint and Co. find that big difference? That's the question I have. But also, as a small treat, THNK, when we get to Agent Select, we do have a lot to talk about from Blin's side, and
we do.
Because they've had some recent agent changes, what are they going to bring out? Also, this might be the first time that you and I have seen a series where the first kills have been directly the same.
I think so. I think it is. I think it is exactly the same, and I think it speaks to how much aggression is becoming not necessarily less of a factor, but it's becoming less of a deciding one for these two teams.
In this series, it's Oki and Paint.
Exactly. Yeah. No. It is Okeanos and it is Paint running up the kill feed, running up to the front line, and seeing who can get the kill first. A lot of the time, it's just been whoever's defending or holding the choke. There hasn't been a lot of Peeker's advantage so far, or there wasn't a lot of Peeker's advantage taking place in Ascent. I don't know if that's going to change when we go back to Split. I don't know if the duelist leans will change. I don't know if Paint's going to top frag. I don't know if Oka's going to top frag here on Split. Again, like you said, the recent changes to Blin's comp might speak a little more heavily to that. But, I mean, yeah, Mikey as well, really stepping up 23-11, 280 ACS by the tail end of that game, and that ace as well. I mean, he was looking spectacular, too.
I just want him to carry me in ranked, man. Unbelievable gameplay coming up from both those duelists. But yeah, I mean, you know, as a prelude going before we find out what the agent selection's supposed to be, Blin has made a lot of big changes to their composition recently. In the past for the Open Qualifiers, we've seen them rock the double dive duelist comp with an Astra for more trap style plays. Coordination's certainly there for Blin. We've seen that countless times over the offseason and through their collegiate runs and even the OQs. But when it comes to the dire straits of what OQs can bring out against you, it hasn't quite worked out the way the team wanted. So going back, reverting to a more defaulty split type style where you have a lot more initiation, you have your Sky back, you don't have the double duelist, and most importantly, you're letting go of the Astra, which negates a lot of the lurkability that you could find on either side of the map. Means now it's going to be a little bit more of a straightforward linear push for a team like Blin that, depending on what thinking men have studied for, that can be really good or really bad.
Yeah, cycling in the Cypher back in for these default pushes is going to look interesting for the attack, which Blin is not starting out on, granted. I'm wondering how they're going to be able to kind of keep up with themselves, because their pushes have not necessarily been insanely fast, but they have been very well put together once they're actually coagulated. So I'm wondering where those trap wires in particular are going to get placed, and also where this Omen is going to come into play as opposed to that Astra for those quick executions on site itself, which is where Blin certainly hasn't been lacking so far this match. Once you get onto site, it's been Blin all over that kill feed, unquestionably, even on Sunset beforehand. Meanwhile, you know, thinking men, they are sticking with that comp they've been running. The Astra is still in the conversation, the Jet is still in the conversation, and they have that Sage locked in rather than the Raze as their second duelist, so they do have a Sentinel on the field, but again, it's more attacker geared.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we're focusing on the controllers here, we really need to figure out, okay, Anderson Spas, what are you going to bring to the table? They were the ones on Sunset and the ones on Ascend being the ones to enable Paint and Okeanos the most. That needs to continue here. It cannot be understated in this series. You need to have Paint flourish. You need to have Okeanos flourish. There is no middle ground. As much as this can be an equal team-based game, when you have ridiculous stat lines like Paint and Okeanos in these last two maps, you have to have them be the main win condition against you and the main reason why you need to convert these rounds. We need to watch the controllers, you need to watch the duelists, and we need to watch to see what the agents are going to be. We're about to find out, everybody. Let's see what the agents will be locked in as. We have Astra, there's the Astra, and there it is, Blinn with the new default comp. Now, one thing we need to dial back on and think about, right, is that this is still a new change for Blinn. We've talked about all the differences already, but the one time we've seen Blinn bring this out, it did go into, what, double OT? On the last matchup, triple OT. I can't do numbers, man. I'm not a math magician. What I can tell you is that they won out against Lemonade Stand. That is another OQ favorites, but a string of losses beforehand, not the prettiest thing to look at in the world when it comes to Blinn, but this is their chance to make sure this comp still continues to work well in their favor.
Yeah, it's actually a quadruple overtime. I double checked, so that was a hard fought victory.
I don't even know what 12 plus 5 is, to be honest with you.
But it is coming heels off of that loss to the Glazers that they had in that OQ1 bracket. Not a single round gained on defense. Which is, I mean, it's split, so like you don't feel too awful about that, but Blinn definitely recognized a need for change. Okeanos certainly feels fine on the Raze, especially when you have Tiga on the Sky to help back you up, so I don't think they're going to worry about those counter pushes too much. They're fine with the hard rotates, they're fine with playing from those towers, but like you said, Spaz and Anderson are who I think we need to look at more than anybody else, particularly Anderson, with how Astra is going to work in tandem with the rest of this composition, because as great as she is, because I always think Astra's a top 5 agent, she feels like a bit of a fish out of water with the help of this Sage in the comp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking you're right about the Sage. I agree. This is going to be a much more slower, stall-heavy comp from Thinking Men when it comes to their defense. But on this attacking side, keep an eye on these early rounds. Paint's dynamic with Anderson's going to be far different from Sunset. Anderson wasn't around, and Paint with a follow-up did get the kill, but again, you don't have your smokes available anymore. You have to rely on Reformed.
They're healing up Paint. They know that they're still stuck here, and Paint doesn't turn around, doesn't see Spaz lurking down ramp, so they'll ultimately win out that 1v2 trade, while the rest of the push up mid through vents is going to get finalized here. Another smoke to get tossed out to potentially dissuade.
This is
amazing. Now that tower
wreck.
presence is here, Thinking Men do have a good amount of control over A site.
Jumping down into sewers gives audio for Blinn, rotating from sewers to mid to B.
Yeah.
No, already a secondary squad above in vents, over the ropes, having control, and Blinn don't even know it.
They'll use it to take up tower. Reform getting a little more confident here. The push is recognized and reacted to by the slow rotate. Teague and Spaz dipping their heads down, and they'll each grab one. Reform, now the last one remaining, can only grab one for himself onto the Ditto and Monsi, but too overwhelmed by the rest of the defense, Blinn comes screaming back and grabs their third first round in a row.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, right? Thinking Men, they had a great surprise drop quite literally from Heaven against Blinn, and even that didn't work. I think the convergence that we had seen from Heaven to Ramp back to A main was a little weird from Thinking Men's side, but I can definitely see the argument. Power and numbers, you want to bypass that Viper wall, you just want to get on the site and fight pistol numbers. I get it. It makes sense. But, you know, kind of going back to what we were talking about as the round started, Anderson's dynamic with his Astra versus with Paint's Jet will be different. He won't be able to necessarily benefit with, let's say, the paranoia or the quick smokes that help Paint get a lot of these early attacking kills over the last two maps. You have to start thinking now, okay, Gravity Well can help, the Nova Pulse can certainly help too. Big timing difference there. You need to be a god with that if you're Anderson. But I think my focus now is really gearing towards Lear. And if Lear can help enable these flashes for Paint to get that entry, that's the buddy system we might want to focus on.
I mean, Lear has definitely been itching to go for these off angles.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He's just been really restricted by, unfortunately, how fast thinking men have had to go once they get the first blood. Which again is so touch and go against Blinn. It really has come down to just like who is on aim labs a little more before they walked in, you know? It has been so tight the whole way through, and a lot of it has come down to aim diffing after all is said and done. The setups from Lear have not been nearly as available. It's had to be a lot of just intel gathering, and again, with how stunted this push Blinn intends to make it, that I don't think that's going to change. I think you have to toss your birds out on the front line in order to gain intel. I think you have to let your dog go in order to open up sight. Lear is not going to get to poke too much up the back line.
No, he has to be at the front lines with paint. Anderson, though, taking a little journey of his own. Homeward bound towards A site there. Again, normally on the defense, you want to have that Sky, top of A ramp, deny that lurk late round. Not quite the case. A reformation now. Default cam was shot out on B, but it wasn't there to begin with. Mikey's got a brand new one in store. Paint has the entry.
And with the Cyber Cage, they'll be able to head up to tower pretty unfettered. Okeanos is going to hear all these steps, and so Blinn is going to be able to set up shop, but Paint has a great opening. Teague, though, holding that back up. This here in hand can grab 2 more. Looking for a third, but thinking men have enough presence on the site. Not anymore, though. They recognize the fight is a little tough here with the spreads that Blinn has, and they'll set their sights on B Tower, where Spaz launches a Paranoia into all 3! And that is all she wrote for round 2. BC up 2-0.
Perfect from Spaz there. I love that play. The Paranoia came through. You know the timing's low. Vents didn't work. A didn't work. There is the timing. The calls being made by Blinn. You gotta go for the Spaz. Just the complete mowdowns here from both A ramp and A and B heaven were so well timed. And a lot of that has to do, again, with just the comms from Blinn's side. They're parsing out where they know that thinking meant art. And we had seen that early push towards B, silence, the cut noise, the re-hit, and that's why the response now from Thinking Man is to divvy up and look for just those double split push plays.
Starts again with Paint. Another shutdown down ramp. Blinn just utter control over this site so far, giving absolutely nothing away. And now we'll have to just cut through to mid again. You have no other options at this stage. Oh, Monsi doesn't even lose off rip there.
Yeah, and this Viper Ball is usually designated to be a split push towards B, but no one's being made anymore. Desperation attempt right now. Possibly, again, a fake off this Poison Cloud. Lear waiting for that mid-round rotation from Blinn that may never come. Comes down to Okeanos. Do they take the risk? The answer is no.
Instead, they'll scope out the competition from tower. Looking for maybe a wanton pick. Nyx can't find it. Reformed can. But in doing so, dips his toes too far into the water. And it's a bum rush for Lear that Spaz cannot fully track. Unfortunate, buddy.
He tried to recreate last round.
30 seconds left.
Still, dropping 2 is not a bad look here for the bonus for Blinn, certainly. They can finish this up, which they're on the verge of doing. They just have to grab this double swing. Okeanos wants to wait for at least one to get back. Teague is saying, I'm coming. Just hold your horses, buddy. Okeanos says, no, I want it now. And he'll go grab it. 1 shot's all you need. And Blinn College keep 3 rifles stable to make it a 3-0 game on this defense. This is really something.
I'm just imagining this dialogue has like a Raise puppet and like a Sky puppet just like yapping at each other. No, that'd be fun. We gotta get like a battle pass. We need a puppet battle pass at some point.
Valorant Muppets.
Right?
That'd be cool.
We're literally the 2 old men.
That's true.
Ah, you see the Sky?
We're the 2 guys, yeah, up on the balcony. Just yapping at him.
All right. But in all seriousness, no, that was a really good bonus from, well, I guess a continuation of the bonus from Blinn. 3 rounds in a row, a defuse in play. They've had a really good, strong control at the back lines of both of these sites. And now, Thinking Men, they found a little bit more value pushing mid in this mid round. They're going to try upward. Oh, well, big emphasis on try. For deep mid this next round.
I think we need a little more of a reset here. But Teague will sack both of the birds to Reformed solo peek. Nokianos will do the same with the blast packs and still can't avoid Anderson's breach. Thinking Men are able to get the drop at least one. So now the question is, are they able to collapse the same way onto a team that's even more prepped for it? Spaz will deny one, but the drop is still there, and Mikey does have minimal intel. Oh, wow, catching the gun. And the spray works. So now a 3v3, the Thrifty doing pretty well so far from Thinking Men. Lear, a dry swing that Vix will fix and trade away as well. Monsy's up next on the chopping block, and with just one snake bite in the bank, might actually want to wait for Teague to head back. But he'll have to do so through CT. Every other position, every other corner is far too uncertain with the fact that there are no more birds that Teague is holding on to. Yeah. Hey, how funny. And he was wearing glasses to show that time had passed.
20 seconds now, just waiting to that audio. For the drop of that spike, Reformed is in such a good position here for post-plant. Both angles can be covered.
One enemy
Monsy's gun shows. No shots onto Vix. Teague misses the do-si-do, and Thinking Men can wrap it up, grab a Thrifty for themselves, and restabilize in round 4.
That last 2v2, you could not have played better if you were Thinking Men.
Yep.
Perfect timing, perfect swings helping out your teammates. You're not holding angles, you're not playing for safety. Objective, objective, objective. Really liking the holds here from Blinn still, even if that round wasn't in their favor. They've done such a great job with communication now on both sides that this could still be anybody's game down to the very last second. Paint now, taking what you wanted to see from Ascent, bringing it to Split now. Initiation has not worked for Paint. He hasn't been able to find much of a distance, has been the victim of First Blood quite a bit. I like this op play. Playing for picks now, looking for the distance, a default in hand as well with that Viper Wall, I'm sure coming up from Reformed over on A site. There needs to be an opening here for Blinn. Brute forcing, like Thinking Men have done the last two maps, will not pass here. You need a new strategy. Now, if Lear can get this orb, Seekers out, flood the site, recognizing only one defender in proximity. The other two need to make a devastating cross, and one now in heaven.
Anderson's lurk is really big here.
He could open this whole round for Thinking Men.
But it'll just be space to springboard off of, it looks like. Thinking Men want their pick of the litter rather than the sandwich immediately, and they'll guess right off of that one smoke, those couple steps. Blinn have over-rotated a little bit onto B site, but that's where Thinking Men will choose to head. They'll choose to trap the bigger share of the stock. Reactively, Monsy heads back down to B site itself, where he can help supplement Spaz in the back and Oak in the front, who are able to each get theirs. But Lear has finally popped his head open with that operator in hand, no less. Is able to grab the opening. Reformed, that's the sign for him to enter too. Grabs Monsy as well, but Lear has too much work cut out for him to finalize. The operator dropped. So does the rest of Thinking Men. Blinn College resurface.
Yeah, even with a big tempo change that Thinking Men attempted to bring out, it didn't work. And they need to go for a attack timeout this round. They've gone for a fundamental change where they played slow, they attempted to play for picks, it ended with that split push on, again, the site where the conditioning wall did not exist that it had previously on B site that would have enabled that split push to work better. No attack timeout though. Still, ideas that cranky in the minds of Thinking Men. They're quite literally thinking their way through this. The lurk this time going to be on Lear's end. If this guy is spotted, normally you don't see it by themselves. Maybe thinking this could be a fake push towards A. Give time to sell it too. But Okeanos is not falling for it. Nobody's falling for it, really.
I mean, he can anchor this until plant is confirmed for all he cares. Like, he has no reason to leave this alone, especially when he's already put the put the pack on.
You have no flashes for this.
Orb has been over contested too, yeah. I mean, Paint just has to peek it. Okeanos will throw out the showstopper to delay any further push, and it'll be enough to just, again, play keep away here. Anderson does some good chip onto Monsy and Vents. Seeker's tossed out in reaction. Will get sprayed down. But that gives space for Lear to come up ramp and finally control that. Can't finish the cabbage, though, so we're on a bit of a hold. Up tower, where Mikey is searching towards next. Great sight.
Spike down A.
On to Vix. That's one gone. Monsy can hold from screens as well. Blinn should be able to clean up from here, but Anderson is going buck wild in the screens, is able to spray and pray his way down to 2. gets traded back out by Mikey, and Reformed is still unaware and uncertain as to that final position, enough to let Mikey just hold it and grab a third for himself and a fifth for Blinn.
I keep saying I like the idea, but I don't know if I like the idea of Thinking Men sending out Lear to be the solo Sky fake hold on A site, and you can see why. Could have easily brought Okeanos off of that upwards position on B had there just been a singular flash. Instead, though, the sacrifice, perfect Zippo replay, thank you so much, production, to show that a flash there would have kept Paint alive. Not quite the case. And now the big problem for Thinking Men is, well, if we have to rotate towards A site, we may have to deal with Mikey. Perfect time for a change, though, from Blinn's side. Focus towards B, I'm sure, once again, and Paint this time, winning the duel. I think that might be the first time since Sunset we've reliably seen that happen from Paint.
Yeah, Okeanos has been diffing pretty consistently up until now. Paint was winning the duels maybe just on the defense on Market in Ascent.
Yeah.
So it's a great start. But Spaz is still hungry. Vic smartly still checks behind him. So Thinking Men do have a bit of an opening. But the double trap wire here on B main might still be too dangerous.
Look at this chase.
Especially considering that you still don't have your Lear.
None the
you
wiser.
Still don't have your Lurk. Teague, if you get a knife kill here... Oh, no, he gets washed! Paige shuts him down! Hi, Reddit. What's up, guys?
Teague is angry. I know Teague.
Angry.
I've met Teague multiple times. I've played with him. I know. He is not a happy camper right now.
Oh my goodness, and that is the round for Thinking Men. They have to complete here. Monty sprays and prays through the screen. Doesn't get a whole lot. Thinking Men, they're gonna switch it up. They're gonna head down to Vix, and Vix holds it back. Oh my god, this is such a sick lurk. This is so gross. Mikey a little bit desperate, cannot win the duel against Reformed. Spaz can turn back into tower and at least crack open too, but Lear shuts that down too. So now it's just down to Monty, who is still getting chased down by Vix as this spike gets planted. And luckily it's necessary, as Reformed can't hold his own. Thinking Men ultimately keep two alive in one of the most tumultuous rounds I think we've seen so far tonight.
This is one of those rounds where you need a telestrator. Like a big old projection whiteboard type beat to see like, okay, how do we break this down like second by second? That was wild to say at the very least. I feel so bad for Teague. But hey, I mean, at least this round, the lurk from Lear sold a little bit away from Blinn's and just kept them rotating. But we're going to be going back to that default lurk now from Reform side. So the timing will be a little bit different. Dedicating Teague now backlines A. Viper's Pit's out here. I like this style. And if we see this challenged, there is Spaz with the paranoia to help out. I was going to mention Mikey. He should be near that Viper's Pit just in case for the neural theft, but no. Deep in the back lines of B, making sure no one approaches. And wait. No showstopper available for Okeanos. Any flash style play would be a double swing and not an explosion out of ramps. What to do here? Another cell towards B site.
And again, yeah, you can't just cut open space here and hope for the best, especially with the pit. I mean, this is even more elongated. But still 50 seconds on the clock. You're allowed to do this as long as you don't lose yourself along the way. Lear is now going to start trollopsing over.
Oh,
TP for intel. There you go.
Good.
All right. Yeah, that's enough. Lear now has to
everything.
rush it. Yeah, Blinn knows. So Thinking Men, they need to get Lear over here to initiate. And so they actually may need to come to him. They might take this Vents push into the pit the other way, as Lear will enter for Monsi. Oh, spotted, but maybe not he. Or maybe he couldn't in time. Monsi can get that kill. But now the Viper's Pit attaching into screens, actually, that Thinking Men are going to try and extend from. So far, not really getting too much. Okeanos is able to hold the line. Paint still with this operator, though, has gotten up close and personal now with Teague as well. And they will use it to take back A site. Now 2 pits abandoned as Monsi strolls through the second one to search for Reformed first. Paint second. Double swing is poorly timed, letting Monsi know that Thinking Men are once again back from the brink. 3-5 now.
There's so much trust with Reform's Viper's Pit there, and such quick thinking from him too. That Viper's Pit covers, like you mentioned, all the way up until screens. Look at the minimap for the division of the players' positions because of that. It forced the Cypher to stay behind. It forced Spaz to push into screens. all individual fights that someone like Pink could easily do away with and take site control. You're not expecting that if you're Blinn, but you can only use that a few times per half, and we're not going to see the Viper's Piss again. Back to the basics. Will we see the Lear fake again? It didn't sell nearly as well on B side that last round. A lot of that may have been because we had seen Monty on that Viper's Pit. But the recall this time from Thinking Man is pure silence. Even with Blinn not having the best weaponry in the world, everyone's still taking their time. And THNK, truth be told, Blinn's weaponry is okay right now for their defense. Though, never mind. What am I talking about? You have to push in for it to work well, but no! Lear... Sure, it's always the smokes with us.
I mean, you know it's gonna, like you said, you know they're gonna have to push in. You know somebody's gonna be hiding in a smoke.
Yeah, so you have to turn it into a blender.
Yeah. You walk right into an absolute massacre at the wrong time. So, mid's open for business, but Thinking Men, they would rather just attack this head on. They'd like to just deal with this fight by fight. But that leaves a window open for Okeanos to watch from the tower and grab a pick before Thinking Men can even really breathe. And once again, it's on to Paint. Reformed. Caught on the neural theft a little too late. Teague caught lacking, and so now Reformed is going to get pressured before anybody else can. Okeanos is going to be the next to take that fight. Meanwhile, the barrier orb placed outside a tower means that Thinking Men will have a bit of a support line over here towards CT. Okeanos has a little more cut out for him now. In fact, a lot more. Vix grabs the kill there, and the operator being held by one in the back with Spaz just playing a bit of tag here. Neither is going to cut through. And so, Thinking Men are able to make it 4.
I mean, look, what's there to say that hasn't been said by Thinking Men in the last 3 rounds? A fantastic lurk from Reformed, taking so much space. The timing there off of that snake bite when there was the neural theft up against Thinking Men was such a good way to prevent any defender from early on taking that site space back. That's exactly what you need. Good timeout here from Blinn too. The real big win condition here is how do you shut down these lurks? A big solution, I think, would be to put Teague very early on A ramps just to see if it gets sold early. Mikey has spy cam. Good to see maybe fairly early on a little bit more aggressively to see what B-main's going up for. But there's also chances for aggression too if you want to take that risk as a defender for mid-site. There are a few different timings that we could see for Blinn. Fine to accomplish right now, but now you have to consider the Cosmic Divide could make an appearance here. And depending on where this Viper's wall goes, that could give a big tell whether or not this is a split push towards A or B. If the wall goes towards B, I'd be willing to bet this is probably a Cosmic Divide push towards A. But again, it really comes down to the wall and what Thinking Men are feeling on the execute. Okay, so it looks like it's going to be catered towards A site.
Yeah.
Now,
this is just, I think, their conditioning, yeah.
Yeah, that's weird, because we've seen them swap their conditioning walls halfway through this half. So I was curious to see if they'd swap it up here with the CD, but they might actually fake Cosmic Divide here. I wouldn't be surprised.
They might do it. The Toxic Screen normally being that dead giveaway regardless, but I wouldn't be surprised if Anderson went for it here. To your point of the anti-lurk, like you said, we really haven't seen, like, any inting, even reactively from Blinn so far. Like, Okeanos is not double blast pack down A for the lurk. Like, we haven't seen, you know, Spaz smoke all the way back into garage entrance. Like, we haven't seen any of that, you know, attempted space creation from Blinn. Yikes. Woo! Teague. Bye-bye.
Unlucky, really.
Yeah. Hate to see it, but that's probably the go signal to, you know, abandon even the idea of the CD fake, at least this round. You probably don't need it. You should be good here, especially with such a prime position up ramp and tower. This was one of the more vulnerable positions going forward for Thinking Men so far this attacking half. And with the flank watch still available from Anderson, who can still throw these smokes down, you know, whenever and wherever he wants. It's just a question of getting onto site itself, which admittedly will be the toughest part. That's why the Cosmic Divide is going to get laid down up to screens.
Okay.
So now it's that double entry. Paint gonna start things out. Does get a little caught by Mikey here, so we'll actually have to get up close and personal with that shorty a little early on, but I don't know if you can do that when Mikey's still able to hold it down. Monsi as well, for that matter, after he's traded away, can get 2 for himself! And met early on. And Anderson not able to round out the pack. Blinn College have the members to make it work, despite the disadvantages, and they have 6.
Yeah, I was really expecting more from that Cosmic Divide. Putting it towards screens in the A main heaven entrance makes sense if you're guaranteed site control, but by the time the CD had come down, the implication for Thinking Man was, we will take A site control. I was already worried that Mikey was down there. Like, we think Son of Car's been good, Mikey has been just as good historically, but him fell, Monty was there for the cleanup, so good to see. And now you don't have to worry about that back lane's control anymore if you're Blinn. You're already good for the half regardless. And now you've lost your big smokes.
Good punishment. Blinn now starting to really get on top of it. And a lot of investment for Paint and stopping him with those blinds, but Mikey cannot connect the shots at least yet. Vix giving themselves away with the shots, but Thinking Men have already really extended through to sight. Teague, the shutdown onto Paint from screens. Thinking Men is once again not prepared for the speed at which Blinn College is able to return to sight. Reform stuck up in this cubby, can only grab one more for himself, and now the showstopper to block out Lear, who is on such low health. Okeanos! Line drive downstairs after such an awkward interaction, but it nets Blinn College their 7th.
In the half.
I mean, it's not like Thinking Men really had much of a choice when Anderson was the first to fall. You're kind of limited in your options without the Astra there. You can't necessarily go for the fake exec. You don't have the smokes ready for top heaven or screens, and it's like, oh, well, we're already here. I guess we have to go for it. Unlucky, really. Big thing to note, too, is that Vix has been holding on to this Resurrect for a lot of rounds now, and with these fast exits that we've been seeing from Thinking Men, there would have been a lot of opportunities for the res to come out. So, with the final round this half, it needs to here. And so Teague taking a little bit more of an aggressive angle here through that Viper wall. I can't imagine why. Probably very bound for revenge. But it's met with silence again. Big change here. Mikey has very rarely used the spy cam angle. All these default cams have been shot out. Hasn't made an appearance up until now. Does get shot out, thankfully. I thought it wouldn't. Gives plenty of info here, and Thinking Men are going to use that leverage to rotate into B main. They must be thinking that Mikey's set up on A still.
Yeah, they're not sure who to box out first, and it's leading to, again, enough uncertainty to where the rest of Blinn can come back, and Teague can set up shop. Vix, though, good taps to find Spaz and Teague. Lock down A site, and actually get to use that resurrection in a safe manner. Which, yeah, Thinking Men weren't really able to do that this whole time. Oh, Reform doesn't spot Monsi! That's such a huge espionage mission that he's now got to continue from vents. And Thinking Men, how many resources do you focus on? Who knows how many coming from the vents? Knowing at least one coming from screens, though. Blinn College is still split, still on the back foot. And Thinking Men do have the way in now that the barrier orb is expired. So Okeanos has to look the other way. Can't win against the double. But Mikey can! The rest of the shutdown! Have your guns out, maybe? Vix now has to get it all done himself, and Mikey is able to dance with him all by himself. 3 more for the Cypher, and 8 rounds now for Blinn College. 5 out from going into the contention match, facing off against Core.
I've been saying this since September. Everyone's sleeping on Mikey, dude. He is such an incredible player. I will say, though, in those final instances, it's so hard to, like, figure out how you want to push it when someone like Lear with the sky changes, you don't really know what to do at that point. You have no info gathering, and you're in such an awkward spot. It's so hard not to, like, fall into the hands of Mikey. But now that we swap sides, this is where that test really comes to play about Anderson and Payne. Because now that duality can show up a little bit more, Thinking Men can kind of lay the pieces out in the beginning and make Blinn be more either proactive or reactive with those Astra utils. It's just a matter of where will it come out. Big aggression on B, though. Or, I'm sorry, A side early on. Wall, the Cyber Cage ready. Gives enough time for Vix to escape.
This is Reformed watching for the push. It will reveal itself. Thinking Men, again, not going to rotate off of this just yet. It's mild presence at the most. At least 2 he'll call. But Blinn, again, very smart with this. Knowingly have that presence up mid, knowingly have this lurk up garage. Always want to keep these members preoccupied, and Paint is stuck again on an island. But one that's not checked by Monsi. And so at least one side of sight is opened up. Thinking Men have control over one end. Okeanos attempting to breach will get caught. And so we'll have to just probably rotate back. Vents is not guaranteed, so we'll have to take the long way as Blinn College will make their way onto site. But Vix, huge shutdown onto Spaz. Spike will get a little isolated, and Mikey has his work cut out for him. A lot of different angles to look at, but he looks enough ways and can still get 2. Make it 3? No, Lear will come just in time. And this time, Mikey has too much to stare at. Now the rest of Thinking Men should be able to make the pinch for a 2v1. Teague does not have any flashes left. Still has to grab this spike, tap, wait things out. There is so much to do in this 17-second gap. And with just the Ghost, it's certainly going to be tough to do it. First tap on default. Paint's going to enter this first.
Oh, no.
Teague actually just going to hold it down. Perfect timing. Not yet. They won't hold the sight line, but Teague has to look both ways, and Paint crosses at just the right time. Thinking Men will take a pistol and take it to 5-8.
There's an old, what is it called? A proverb? I think it's from a video game, but I think it comes from like the ancient days, right? It's like if you chase 2 rabbits, you lose them both. And so Teague had the right
fire, bro.
Right?
I'm gonna put that on I'm gonna make that my next Instagram note.
You chase 2 rabbits, you lose them both. Live, laugh, love. But like Teague had the right idea. He went for the fake plant, but then he second-guessed himself, and it became a split push. Not even a 50-50. Just, choose your poison at that point. Fall to the hands of Paint or fall to the hands of Lear. Paint, though, outlaw out. Looking to become a real criminal outside of B main. May find some impact doing so, but these Astra smokes are providing at least a little bit more backup potential for Anderson, but he hasn't got to back away himself.
Other bird tossed in. Very liberal with this defensive util, but it's still Pain has a free shot. Make it 2, actually. I mean, that's the Outlaw's whole thing. But that's all he can grab as the rest of the tower breach makes itself known and makes itself quite available, actually. Now a 2v2 that Thinking Men still have some stability, and Spike for that matter, for. Reform with the drop can take care of Monsi as well. So Mikey now on the long road to finish off Reformed and take that 1v1 on the Vix. This first one should be no trouble. But now found out on tower, he'll have to return fire and use that ultimate to determine that Vix is in garage. So now it's a second dance that Vix will just relent to. It's a question of who can win the swing.
Yeah.
Mike does have to hop on. It does have the camera. But Vix choosing to watch his back instead, thinking that maybe there's the heavy flank. Instead, there will be that first tap. And now Vix is going to use that as the cue to actually head up to mid himself. But
and look at this.
He's gotten pinged.
Yep.
They know.
Planted the spike.
And Mikey, a defensive demon. Exercise, apparently.
Yeah. Hey, you still have your work cut out for you. And Thinking Men can recover and ultimately take that round back. But, I mean, it's so tough to say that they can keep this going. It is weak scaffolding for this defense, and it doesn't necessarily come from an individual. It comes from the fact that, again, Blinn are so well coordinated when they actually execute, and it's so quick in that one moment, and then they spread back out, and then they let their resources fly again. It's very like we were talking a lot about before in the earlier rounds where it's just very gunfight centric, how there is a strict beginning, a strict end, and teams are vying to get rid of that in between. Blinn's in between is minuscule, microscopic, and if anything, it's even more dangerous and volatile.
You gotta break that coordination. Thinking Men were able to do that on Sunset. You just have to treat Split as in more elevated, I guess, Sunset. It's possible. Poison Cloud down. Timings was a big issue when it came to Blinn much earlier on in that first map. A well-oiled machine for each player now. They've had plenty of time to warm up through these matches. And now it's Thinking Men on the aggress.
With Paint the first to go, but it's on to an Okeanos that has full shields, and so he will stay standing for another fight. One that he's more than happy to take up mid.
Oh, the heal doesn't reach.
Now it does. Yeah. I always, those are always a little spooky.
Yeah, and you've lost Paint now too. You know, going back to what you were saying before, the coordination from Blinn has been so good, but Thinking Men, their biggest arsenal tool was Paint's frag ability.
Yeah.
And sure, it's a thrifty round, yeah, but you can't squander rounds at this point. It's a series point.
Yeah,
Or series map, I should say.
Yeah, this is a game to determine, you know, who's playing next on stream. And Thinking Men really want it to be them again. But Mikey and Spaz can hold it back down on site for the time being. Re-up for the site, and Anderson forced to fight one at a time with the sheriff in hand. Nothing doing there. Pretty expected outcome at the end of the day for Blinn College, but not without its obstacles that Thinking Men can throw in the way, and now they have a really solid buy to show for it.
Yeah, the buys for Thinking Men aren't terrible either. They're able to at least full buy, but they do have a lot of light shields in the process. Thankfully, no outlaws to deal with, but still, you know, it could be a lot more to be desired. I do have faith, though, in Thinking Men here. I think, again, that the semi-trap style plays that we can see from Anderson and Reform being those semi-sentinels along with Vix has a lot of stalling potential. It's just up to Thinking Men to understand, like, okay, where can we stall? Where does that start? In A-Site, it's been a pretty good start, but Paint has been the other non-stalling tool to just get some leverage. But Paint needs to stay alive to do that.
Yeah, he's up a paddle without, or up a creek without a paddle. Up a paddle.
He's gone. My ultimate.
Mikey, opener onto Reformed. Ramp is still BC's. And Paint's gonna double dip for this, actually, but Monty's already inside. You have to check so much, but he does get both. Very impressive swing.
Where you are.
That will at least open up Garage. So now it just comes down to the mid push that Vix is slowed on, but the concussed onto Oak leaves just enough of an opening for Vix to re-enter. Now the triple swing from the cages is enough for Thinking Men to complete. Lear 2 more on the board, and Thinking Men make the gap 2 rounds deep as well.
Such a good round from Thinking Men. Again, just suppressing space, using those chokeholds as a defender to your advantage, making sure not only can you just stall, but make sure you can pummel and make sure that Blinn cannot survive out of those early engagements. And so now, Blinn, this is their opportunity to counter play, I suppose. They have to find their own way to find the aggression towards A-Site now. They were walled off before, surely to happen again, but that wall could be instantly taken down by 4 different members. No, not even a wall, this time the slow orb. Vix wants to save this wall. Oh, I see. Playing around that initial timings. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, let that wall last longer. Okay,
I admire
okay.
that. Off the eco, I mean, you know there's a good chance that Okeanos is just going to int this, because you know that you've ISO'd 1 for the defense on ramp all too often, like you just did last round, so I think just playing for the initial slowdown, but yeah, they'll go back to the default hold with this barrier that'll get broken. Vix can start watching up the screen, have the forced sacrifice of the smoke. Lear's gonna dip in from tower, but that also gets blocked away by the snake bite. Again, great setup, great knockdown by Blinn College to get onto site with no real strings attached so far, thinking that they're gonna play for the retake.
Okeanos is the only Vandal wielder, though. Has to keep this one alive. Needs to make sure their biggest tool can stay afloat. Mikey? Not cleared.
Oh, there we go. That's the turnaround. And the gun diff is going to permeate this round, I think. Oh, it certainly will.
Oki's still alive, though.
Yeah, was still super ready. Oki is still alive, and he will be the only one to grab a kill, and it will be only 1 kill. Thinking Men, that is the round to fully get them back in this game and make this, I think, somehow the most even we've seen this back and forth so far.
You know, it's been so mirror mode-esque, right? Like, the first map, this was Thinking Men, they've never lost it. The second map, it was for Blinn in OQs, they've never lost it. And then, of course, what a fitting ending, right? Like, the final map is that true even terrain where both of these teams are really struggling and putting their thinking caps on to be like, okay, what can we do as a team to win this? It's not even just about gunplay anymore. Paint and actually not Okeanos top fragging anymore. The numbers are so much closer. This is more so a battle of the Sentinels, and I'm including Viper in that as well. Really just about how well you can use utility to control spacing on this map. Oh, fast exit once again, it seems.
Oh, now Okeanos wants it. Paint, instant reaction, complete shutdown. Now you've just got to dry swing it, and on the snake bite, it's dangerous, but Mikey has the opening pick and can hunt down Reformed as well. But Anderson has been left untouched, stayed quiet until now, can take down Teague. Spaz on the run around, can take care of things, and now the invasion is complete. Everyone from Blinn College has their sight line, and Lear is stuck in the most obvious position. Mikey, the first choke, the first cutoff, the only one Blinn needs to complete. Double digits, baby!
Great response from Blinn. Just complete disrespect of any utility that's brought out by Thinking Men in the first 30 or so seconds. A fast push in, exactly what you want. But look, if I'm Thinking Men, I don't have to change my strategies here. At least for this next round, I can double down and work with what worked well before. A 4-stack on B is interesting to start. I think there's a Viper's Pit allowed here too from Reform that could go on A site. We'll have to check and see. There's 4 ults available. No, Reformed is the only one without an ult on this site, but if he does get this early pick here, he will have it. And so, 4 other ults to work with here in the post plan, if it does come down to that, is going to be gnarly for Thinking Men. And Paint's already going for this strong push.
This is a lot of space gain. Monsi watching, but he'll catch a knife to the dome. And so, Blinn forced to constantly watch their tails for this push, which does still seem to be a pretty standard A site hit with the help of the Seekers this time. They'll get spiked down, and Paint is forced to, again, play from a heavy back seat. Not sure of how much of a flank watch there is, just because there's so little intel that Thinking Men has to open this up. Can't even approach tower properly yet as the spike continues ticking down, but they've got to make it happen, and they've got to do it now. Huge crunch. That's 2 to start things out, and the site is open for business. Paint comes careening back over, but into the cubby. You've got to watch that first. T gets too much to stare at, and Vix can clear the rest. Thinking Men, make it work, make it happen, and keep Force stable to bring it to a 10-9 game.
Clinical retake. Blinn, I mean, they doubled down again. They went for the fast push towards A site. They thought no reason to change up their general strategies. An empty site, they want a flood retake? Easy peasy. Nah, not even. The Seekers were great from Lear, but it was more so, again, just the space control from Pain. And, in my time of casting Valorant, I don't know how many kills I've actually seen in attacker spawn like that before against Monsi. That's truly unlucky. But 10-9. And the majority of the very important ults that Thinking Men I expected them to use into that last round were not used. Cosmic Divide, the Viper's Pit, immediately out in mid, shutting that down. Hasn't been big on Blinn, but it may condition them to push in the B site where that Viper wall lies. Or contest directly into this pit too.
I think this is solely to get rid of the neural theft, if you can.
I could see that.
Because I just, for the future gun rounds, Thinking Men just really don't want to deal with that, but instead, Blinn is just going to get dissuaded, head over to Garage, try their hands at that. They will have a flash for it, so they could open this up.
Cosmic Divide's going to be terrible, though, for this post plan against Blinn.
Oh, Mikey, first pick on Anderson, second flash, and you have to run away from it. Mikey on a tear, Blinn College! Get it all done! And indeed, the neural theft is utilized, but it's to pick apart the last 2 members of Thinking Men, who now have to come scurrying on back over. Teague's position given away, but at the cost of 1 lone dog. Not really pressed about it. Still hopping from the high ground, and this hesitation factor is starting to become more and more apparent. Monsi's Lurk will finalize the round for Blinn College. A flawless round 20. They are 2 rounds away from the winners finals.
Yeah, this is where the nerves really start to kick in for everybody if they haven't already. You are inching so much closer to the ending, and yeah, if I'm thinking it, I'm going for a timeout. Stalling has worked, but the fuses have worked better. A lot of these rounds have been on the condition that Thinking Men can maybe to an extent flood retake and just go for a straight defuse. Now, I mentioned those ultimates before. We did get to see the appearance of the Viper's Pit, and that was enough to drive Blinn back over to B, which should have been enough to collapse upon Blinn on the entry. No, they forgot about Okeanos being Oki, and Mike also being Mike with 25 and 12. Holy.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. I think that's even better than last game, because I think Mikey got like 20,
I'm telling you, man.
last game.
People are sleeping on Mikey.
I'm wide awake now.
I'm telling you, you got to be a believer. He is a demon, a literal demon in this game. But Mikey still has some work to do. 2 more rounds, 2 more 10 rec. And if you're thinking, but you're so close to tying it up, you're right there. And there have been some really strange kills against both these teams. You can't let the mental falter now. This is not even a game of kills anymore. It's okay, how do we outthink the enemy?
Yes,
This is a Sun Tzu match now. Double Viper Walls on A and B. Are they think? Are they not? Let's find out. And it's default in play from Blinn. Safety now in play. Not sure what Thinking Men have up their sleeves this time around. There is that mid control from Thinking Men. Looking at the very least to parse it out, maybe find some Phantom sprays. Nope, sorry, Vandal sprays, not quite. The hold on A site though, Thinking Men are for sure thinking, okay, this has to be where Blinn like to go the most. They're fast exec towards A.
So they keep some stationed there, despite the heavy pressure up mid immediately. That can extend into vents, extend into tower if Blinn so chooses. That's the intention with this heavy backside. Big paranoia to make sure that you can't contest the tower as Okeanos will push onto it. Vix is going to choose to take this fight and actually dances around it pretty well to avoid for a while, but with the help of the blind, Oki is able to refrag. Lear holding from the low ground, reformed as well. They can each grab theirs too, so it's ultimately a 2v2 post plant that Okeanos does a little bit of acrobatics in order to get the spike for, but doesn't check Link. Pate doesn't get the kill though, has to dive in deep, and now may have gotten too big for it.
30 seconds left.
A crucial opportunity to turn this round instantly in Thinking Men's favor. Gone. Okeanos still holding it down. Monsi inside the pit. You gotta execute at some point. Okeanos sure can. One more and it's again the duelist ditto. Anderson, so much to do. 1 star to do it. And the spike is already too far gone at this stage. You have bites that you can throw at this, and so Anderson just has to take the fight onto a Monsi that has every advantage under the sun. Blinn are 1 round away from their contention match and winning the rematch against Thinking Men.
Ooh, those nerves once again setting in.
Enemy remain.
I mean, great post plant there from Monsi again. What was that? He was down to 4 bullets by the end of that. Had it been a single spray that had not gone in his favor, 1v1, still may not have been enough time for them to defuse, but it would have been a heck of a lot closer. I mean, I'm just watching back like an audience member now. I want to see how this plays out, man. And there he goes. Early stall. Surely from this wall from Vix. Yep, there it is. Invested on A site. That's going to shut down at least A site for now, denying the Mikey lurk. But remember that last round we saw a lot of info pressure towards mid. Mikey's going to remain hidden to try to wait out this wall. It will break in due time. And all the while, though, Blinn can set themselves up for mid and maybe for the late game doing so. That tells me this should be ending on A side exec. Whether through vents or through A main popper, it's yet to be seen.
It's got to be a vent squeeze. They have to go for it.
Not if Lear says anything about it. He's the determining factor of whether this series ends here or now.
Truly. So much rests on him.
The wall broke.
If Blinn so choose to break this, yeah. Now that, you know, you have a couple more push opportunities available, Blinn, they've been loving to wait. And they do. For Paint to stick his head out. Your duelist is gone. What do you do next? Lear says, I guess look for something. He sees a whole lot, but he can't find a kill out of it. Reformed has excellent timing against Oak and Teague, and so we have an equalized PvP, but Anderson is about to get
30 seconds
the squeeze now. Spaz TPing right into Anderson's LOS and can still find a couple more shots. Vix the res for good measure, and so 4 end up standing here in round 22. Huge recovery round for Thinking Men.
And that's a scary round too. You've lost Paint as the opening pick. And we've been talking ad nauseum about how great Paint has been this entire series. One of the few, actually, one of the majority of the members of Thinking Men to go positive, but barely in this map. What a great opening pick too from Monsi, no less. I mean, there's just plans upon plans here. There's layers. And his execution strategy coming out from Blinn. Mikey didn't find much value off of that sage wall breaking, but that's okay. It's a fast exit now for Blinn. They want this to end now.
There it is, Oak Search. It's Wanton Showstopper up in a tower, and now he's a bit isolated, and so the rest of Blinn College try to hop on a little early to save face, and it's a complete shutdown from Peyton Anderson. Instant collapse for Blinn College on another attacking round. And they have one more chance in regulation to tie this up before Thinking Men can claw their way back.
What a great read from Thinking Men. Knew for a fact BC were going to do something completely different, complete opposite of what you wanted to accomplish before. Fast exec towards B hasn't really been seen. They tried something new and Thinking Men took a gamble and it worked out so well. Back to defaults again. Mid pressure, consistent for Blinn. It's up to Reform now to make sure, okay, yeah, sure, use that utility. Get rid of those flashes, T, that's fine. Paint needs to win this opening duel. An operator in play, a heavy investment.
Oh, Paint loses the trade, but doesn't die. Very close to it, but there is still an operator that we're holding on to. But Blinn basically have their pick of the litter for where they can push. Mid is so viable for extension, but Blinn will still take the ladder into
THNK.
sewer as
Look at
Monty goes
this.
for the lurk up vents.
Stars down on B. Expectation now is that Blinn will late exec on B site.
Yeah.
Only 2 defender bodies on A.
I've got your trail.
This is gonna have to be a super late post plant. The Seekers will help give Thinking Men that idea that you know, this push is definitely going towards A site, but Vix and Anderson really can't do much now. It's an easy site. Isn't an easy round for Blinn College. Thinking Men post up all across CT. No lurks, no flanks, but some util, some stars, some blast packs, an operator in hand, reforms to be exact. But Okeanos has the first high ground vantage. That's an easy trade initially. Screen presence has to get denied early on. That's what Teague is in the cubby for. He's sprayed away, but traded back out by Mikey, who will now get sandwiched by Lear on the drop down. The Cosmic Divide cutting noise, leaving enough time. Now it's up to Monty on the high ground. Only one snakebite he can let go of, and Spaz cannot hold it any longer. Thinking Men will execute and take us to overtime.
A moment to breathe for everybody.
Switching sides.
Scary rounds. But Thinking Men, they held it down. They barely used any utility before that post plant, and they made sure they can take as much space as they needed to back. Whip shots too from Blinn. Nervousness kicking out. Now it's a matter of seeing 12-12, an overtime ending here. Who's it gonna go towards?
Dude, whoever wins this has to play core.
Yeah, that's
For
not the
VCL.
easiest thing in the world.
Like,
well, you know,
like-
well, no. The lore goes deeper. Mikey played for Core when they almost won the Knights Forward Championship way
man.
back in September, and he's been bouncing around teams since then until Blinn. That's gonna be like a personal vendetta at that point, even if he was just a sub. Look at the pacing being so much more different. Smokes go down, fast execution. It needs to be. Space needs to be created, but they don't know about Mikey. Trips, the stars, Mikey again, paint's removed. He's the paint thinner.
We're already back on, but Blinn College have every reason to just peek out and fire away.
One enemy
They will
remaining.
use it to a
Strike
T.
down A.
Complete clearance of A site. Another utter shutdown from Blinn. And they will farm another opportunity for match point here in a flawless manner.
This is
Switching
it.
sides.
Blinn, they
Match
made their
point.
benefits work well by fast executing, but it was read by Thinking Men the last time they attempted to do it. This that execute was really good though.
Yeah,
But-
very well done.
We'll have to wait and see. Again, this is hard to call strategies at this point because Blinn have played this very safe or very fast. There's been no in between. These defaults are going to come back out again. Pressure this time. Thinking Men think the fast exit could be on A site. They are half right about it. It could still happen, but just not at the beginning of the round. Pressure towards mid. Lear's been the focal point early on. One flash could help solve this early game issue that Thinking Men have been having.
Blinded.
Lear just to slow. That Nebula can help him just spray. Paranoia for the exec, and it's enough for Oki to hop on and control vents. There is still vent presence, though, with Vix on these zips. But again, Blinn can choose to open this up. It looks like it's going to be a B exec.
It has to be.
With the garage posted up, yeah, this has to be committal. It's just a question of when. It's got to be... The Band-Aid's got to come off quick.
Oh,
Great dog timing to scope out Reform, who tried to go for the lurk. Another perfect punish for Blinn. Back to their strengths we saw in Sunset. It all comes full circle in the 3v5. Make it 2 now as Mikey is able to breach from Garage and take down Anderson. The last presence on B site gone. And it's got to come from Tower in order for Thinking Men to save this and keep the overtime party going. And they've got to wait for the smoke to fade in order to do it. First spray through to try and scope out Spaz, but they're not going to land the shots. And it's got to come down to the 1Vs, but Pain's head is spotted by who else? Okeanos lets the ultimate fly. Vix cannot show his head for the next 4 seconds. But Oak does not need it to be shown. We'll just let it fly. Miss it matters not. Boxed away. Vix can at least get that one. But 19 HP, 4 to go. Drops into hell in more ways than one. And Blinn College will become the second collegiate team that will have a spot in a contention match to get into VCL.
I mean, wow, what a hard-fought battle for Blinn. That was truly to the depths. Blinn taken to the ultimate of their strat books. 2 flawless maps for respected teams going back-to-back of overtime to end up. That is a storybook series for anyone watching Valor. That is exactly what anyone would hope to see. And let me tell you, that was in depth. Both macro level, small level changes, Blinn, they inched their way out barely to get into where they're at now. Like you mentioned before, THNK, they still get a whole other beast to deal with right after.
It's true. It should be said as well, Thinking Men were also undefeated on Split up until this point. So Blinn able to at least shut down one streak today. And like you said, facing off against Core in order to grab that VCL spot. Very difficult match ahead of them, but they're gonna come into it guns blazing. And ultimately, while it was a very close match in the long run, Blinn College, in every respect, they proved why they were better, especially in team fights by the end of that. Paint was such a monumental need for a lot of these pushes, and as good as Okeanos was, he was not nearly as essential to opening up these sightlines, particularly on A site here on Split. Blinn just had no trouble still just waltzing through screen, not even really caring about tower a majority of the time, and just controlling a lot of those grounds that Thinking Men didn't really think they needed to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, really, as we came forwards, map after map, it became much more of a support player game. Sure, we had map 2 Okeanos popping off, but that was mostly to the hands of Anderson helping so much more. And then we get to that final map, just like you said, so much more smoke util, Thanks, the Cypher util, Mikey popping off, and I think nearly dropping 30 by the end of that series. That is exactly what you need for a well-rounded team to qualify for the VCL. Whew. I mean, what was the ACS at the end? Mikey, a 302. Not really far off from the other ACSs that we had seen from Paint and Okeanos those last 2 maps. I mean, both of those duelists pushing towards 400, but for a Cypher going to 302, I wouldn't say that's terribly far off.
Yeah, no, Mikey absolutely proved his position on this squad in more ways than one. Just the follow-up picks, the insane 1v2s that he was able to execute, really no problem with no support, considering the fact that Teague's flashes were a little more lackadaisical than Lear's had to be in the first place, considering that, again, you have Spaz on the smokes. Really just incredible execution in a vacuum, let alone with the rest of this team, which looks more and more dangerous by the round. That is one demon down, but they will have to clear out Core in order to make their way into VCL. Keg, you will still be casting that, though. I'm so excited to watch.
That's right. Yeah, we'll be joining with Ravish, and super excited to work with him again. It's been such a long time, and Blinn versus Core, dude, that's going to be a scary matchup. We gotta warm up our vocal cords. We gotta eat some dinner before we get to that first zone. So we're gonna be going to a small break. We gotta get all the players ready. We gotta get Ravish ready. We gotta get everything ready up for one of the most hyped matchups we're gonna be seeing for the qualifiers for VCL. So don't go anywhere. Please, truly do not. And we'll be right back.